Welcome to the High Income Business Writing Podcast, helping you propel your writing business to a whole new level. And now, here's your host, Ed Gandia.
Hey there, welcome to another episode of the High Income Business Writing Podcast, the number one podcast for freelance writers, copywriters, and solo marketers who want to earn more in less time doing work they love for better clients. With over 1.3 million downloads from listeners just like you across 101 countries. If you've been paying attention to how AI is changing the freelance landscape, you've probably noticed that client needs and client demand for project work, those things are shifting very rapidly. A year ago, most of the conversations I was hearing from writers and solo marketers were about one thing. How do I keep getting hired for the same kind of work when AI can crank out first drafts in a matter of seconds? Even if those drafts aren't really that great, the fact is that level of production exists today, and you can get a first draft very, very quickly. That's a very fair question, but I would argue that this is the wrong place to stop because, yes, that conversation is still happening, but something else is going on beneath it. Clients are starting to recognize that they need different kinds of help, and many of them don't even know how to articulate what they need. They just know they're stuck. A big factor driving this is the organization's leadership. A rapidly growing percentage of companies are being led by CEOs and executives who are pushing their teams to adopt AI immediately. In fact, this has quickly transformed from curiosity to a request to a top-down mandate in many, many organizations. According to McKinsey, in a report they recently released in February of 2026, and the report is titled The State of Organizations 2026, this top-down shift is becoming the new standard for global business. First, AI adoption has reached a near universal scale, with 88% of organizations now deploying the technology in at least some part of their business, according to that report. In organizations with a clear vision, McKinsey noted that nearly 90% of leaders are now actively championing AI adoption as a core strategic requirement. But what's interesting is that this top-down pressure often collides with a lack of operational clarity. So McKinsey found in that report that 86% of leaders also admit that their organizations are not very prepared to actually implement AI into its day-to-day workflows. So basically, here's what's going on. Leadership wants AI to be deployed yesterday. I mean, this has become a major mandate. It's no longer kind of a nice sort of thing. But teams aren't exactly sure how to deploy it. And in many cases, they don't even have a plan to do this well. That can spell opportunity for you because you do not need to be a technical person to help your clients with AI. What you need is a basic understanding of how these systems work, plus a basic understanding of writing workflows and a bit of systems thinking. Look, most of these teams, especially marketing, sales, go-to-market teams, these are not very technical people to begin with. They're not looking for a technical AI expert. What they want is guidance. And you might think, well, why would they need that? Can't they figure this stuff out themselves? If you've come from a corporate background, if you understand the dynamics there, these people are so incredibly crazy busy. They don't have the bandwidth or the mental capacity in terms of time and patience to be able to learn this on their own. They're very capable people. They're very, very good at what they do, but they're stretched so thin. And I've found that good writers have a lot of the right level of capability and understanding to help these teams because when you think about it, writing is fundamentally the art of decomposing complex information into logical end-to-end process flows. And here's what a lot of clients are dealing with right now. Their teams are stuck. Processes are scattered. Leadership wants AI adopted yesterday, but nobody knows how to make it work day to day. And because of the way we think about information and workflows, we as writers are actually very well positioned to help bridge that gap. So in this episode, I want to walk you through the 4 broad ways that clients are buying AI related help right now so you can start thinking about where you can fit and what you may want to offer. So here's how I've come to think about this. When a client reaches out for help with anything AI related, they're typically dealing with one or two gaps. Either they need clarity or they need capability. Clarity means they don't fully understand what's possible. They don't know what to prioritize or where to start. They may have 15 tools bookmarked and no idea which ones actually matter for their business. Or maybe they have a ChatGPT account, but they're not really sure what to do, how to get going. That's very, very common. Capability means that they know roughly what they want, but they can't do it themselves. So they need someone to help them build it, to teach it or run it. And then layered on top of that, there's a second dimension. Some clients need guidance. They need a thinking partner, a coach, someone to help them figure things out. Others need systems. They need actual workflows. They need prompts. They need automations. They need processes they can use. When you put these two dimensions together, you get 4 categories of demand. So 4 real ways people are hiring help right now. And I'm going to walk you through each one individually. Let's start with the first category, which you could call strategic advisory. And this is where the client needs clarity and they need guidance to get there. These are often business owners or founders or marketing leaders who know AI is important but feel overwhelmed. Maybe they've experimented with ChatGPT, played around with a few tools, but they can't see the full picture. They don't know what to prioritize. They don't know what's a real opportunity versus a shiny object. What they're buying from you in this scenario is your thinking, your ability to assess their situation, to understand their goals, and to help them build a plan that actually makes sense for their business. You're not building anything for them yet. You're just helping them figure out what's worth building in the first place. This kind of work can look like a paid assessment or a strategy sprint, a half-day advisory session, or an ongoing advisory retainer, something around that. You can call it whatever you want, but the key thing is that you're being hired for judgment, not for output. That's the important part of this. The second category is training and enablement. Now here, the client still needs guidance, but the real gap is capability. So they have a decent sense of what they want to do. They just don't know how to do it yet, and they need someone to teach their team. This is a massive area of demand right now. Companies are rolling out AI tools across marketing teams, content teams, operations. And most of those teams are figuring it out by trial and error, which means they're wasting time. They're getting inconsistent results. They're building bad habits by doing it this way. 80% of corporate marketers and corporate workers in general that I've asked over the past few months have basically told me the same thing when I've asked them about this. They said that, look, there are people in my team using AI. A couple of them are power users, most are dabblers, and a few just don't even use it at all. There's no cohesive approach. There's no training. There's no standardized workflows, nothing like that. If you can walk into that situation and teach a team how to prompt well, how to build repeatable workflows, how to review and refine AI output, you're solving a real and immediate problem. I recently did a morning training for a client of mine. They were dabbling with AI. The team was basically doing their own thing with ChatGPT. Everyone was doing things individually. There were no systems, there were no templates, no prompting guidelines in place. It was really the Wild West. And I taught them a few best practices. We then set up some projects, a few custom GPTs, and they were getting immediate improvements that very day. I mean, they were looking at me like I was a magician. Like they just couldn't believe it. Training work can be a one-time workshop. It could be a multi-session program. It can be a recorded course, a lunch and learn. Something custom you build for a specific client. And I say custom, but in many cases, 70% of it can be the same material, the same guidelines, the same rules and systems that you've created for yourself that you can now package and productize into training. The format really matters less than the outcome because you're really transferring capability to the client so their team can do the work themselves and do it better and faster. That's really the core issue there. The third category is what I would call proof of concept builds. And this is where the client needs clarity, but instead of guidance, they need a system. They need something small and concrete that shows them what's possible. Think about a marketing director who's heard about AI-powered content workflows, but has no real good idea of what one of those actually looks like in practice. They don't need a 6-month engagement. They need you to build a small contained example that proves that the concept works. Now, that might be a prompt chain for turning customer interviews into case studies. It might be a research workflow that will cut hours off their content planning process. It could be a quality control checklist powered by AI that catches the things that junior writers keep missing. Anything, all of the above. It could be a bunch of different things. The point is this, though. It's got to be small. You want it to be tangible, and it should de-risk the bigger conversation, because once they see something is working, the door then opens to larger engagements. I recently worked with a client inside one of their teams that wasn't using AI at all. And the CEO recently started mandating that everyone in the company start spending at least 1 hour a week learning these tools. And they're really mandating this from the top down. But this department hadn't really done much yet. And as part of my deliverables, I set up a custom GPT for them that enabled this team to score target prospects based on a very specific and detailed rubric that we defined together that was modeled after their best clients and partners. And that alone, that proof of concept, woke them up to the possibilities and the many creative ways they could use these tools to remove internal friction and make smarter decisions. It's still early days. I just delivered this to them, but it's fantastic just to see the look on their faces. Now they're starting to see what I've been talking to them about before, that it wasn't quite resonating with them, that just wasn't quite landing. And now that I created this proof of concept, now they see it. Now they see the light. Now they see the different possibilities. So I love this category because it's one of the easiest entry points for a lot of clients. You don't need a massive proposal. You just need a clear, bounded deliverable that shows your thinking and shows your technical skill in one shot. When I say technical, I don't mean like crazy technical. I'm just talking about your command of these tools. All right, the fourth and final category is implementation. And this is where the client already has a good sense of what they need, and now they need someone to build it out. Capability plus systems, essentially. Now, these clients aren't looking for strategy or training. They're past that. They need someone who can create the workflows. They can set up the automations, build the prompt libraries, develop the templates, integrate the tools, and make the whole thing work day to day. If strategic advisory is about thinking and proof of concept is about showing, implementation is really about doing. And there's a lot of this work available right now because most companies are still in the early stages of actually operationalizing AI in their content and their marketing processes. Now, this is often the highest volume category. It also requires the most hands-on time. The upside, though, is that implementation work tends to be sticky. So once you're embedded in someone's workflows and systems, you become very hard to replace. And in my experience, you typically don't get in the door through this particular category. Usually you've already been in the door doing a lot of other things and maybe even entered through one of the other categories also, and then eventually ended up here. So this is actually the area that I'm trying to get more into right now with the client I mentioned a minute ago, because I'm pitching them on implementation help beyond that custom GPT build, and then assist them with creating the workflows and building more of the tools and making everything work smoothly from a change management standpoint. So those are the four categories: strategic advisory, training and enablement, proof of concept builds, implementation and work. Now, here's the important part. I'm not telling you to go out and build offers in all four of these areas. That would be a mistake. That's just too much. It's overwhelming. Each of those categories requires a different skill set. It requires a different kind of buyer and a different sales conversation. If you try to do all four, you're going to spread yourself thin. Your messaging is going to get muddled, and you're going to end up sounding like a generalist who does a little bit of everything. And that's the opposite of what you want. So instead, what I would suggest would be to pick just two, maybe three at the most, of these categories that match your strengths, your interests, and the kinds of clients you want to attract. If you love teaching and you're a strong communicator, training and advisory might be your sweet spot. If you're more of a builder who loves getting into the details of workflows and systems, maybe proof of concept, maybe implementation might be where you shine. If you're someone who's great at seeing the big picture and helping clients think through decisions, could be advisory and proof of concept. Those are really good, powerful combinations. The point is there's no wrong answer here. The wrong move is just trying to do everything and trying to do everything for everybody. So here's what I would encourage you to do this week. If this is resonating with you, look at these 4 categories and think honestly about where you have the most credibility, the most energy, the most natural pull. Maybe jot them down, rank them. Think about the last few client conversations you've had and just ask yourself, which of these 4 types of help were they really asking for? Or maybe they were implying that they have gaps in some of these. Because once you start seeing client needs through this lens, everything changes. Your conversations get sharper, your proposals get clearer, better, more on target. And you stop trying to be all things to all people. We're going to keep building on this concept, this idea over the coming weeks. I want to dive deeper into this. There's a lot we can unpack, and we're going to be getting more specific about how to develop and test these offers, how to talk about them, and how to diagnose which one a prospect actually needs in real time. But for now, I would just say, look, start simply. Pick your 2 or 3 that you think are best aligned with your temperament, with your skill set, with your wiring, and start paying attention to the signals. That's it. Start simply, start today, start there. Thanks for listening. Well, that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed the episode. And just a quick reminder to grab your free copy of my latest book, Earn More in Less Time: The Proven Mindset, Strategies, and Actions to Prosper as a Freelance Writer. You can get your free copy at b2blauncher.com, where you will also find the detailed show notes to this and all my other episodes. Enjoy and have a great day.